In 2023, I played catch. I played catch every day. I played catch every day with a different person. That's right, 365 days, 365 connections, 365 conversations. My journey convinced me that people really want to connect. They just need an invitation to have that conversation. This podcast is my way of simply continuing the journey of connecting with others. So grab you some peanuts and Cracker Jack, or if you prefer, some popcorn and peanut M&Ms. I don't care as long as you're tuned in, because everyone has a story they want to be heard, and every story's worth hearing. I'm Travis Edwards, and this is Catching Conversation. I'm your host, Travis Edwards. My guest today is Randi Knight. She is a mother and author of the book Grieving Light, which was published in 2021. Randi's purpose in writing the book was to share her own story of experiencing loss in order to help others who may be on a similar journey. Randi says, grief can be hard, especially if a person is alone. This story is to help others know they are not alone in their journey. Randi, welcome to Catching Conversation. Let's play catch.
Let's do it. I'm ready.
So, my first pitch is this. As a native of Missouri, I have to begin with this question. Is it Nevada or Nevada?
It is Nevada.
Are you sure?
Yes, I am. Yeah, we get that a lot, but yeah, it's Nevada.
So isn't it interesting that you can have people out west who call it Nevada, and here in Missouri, we call it Nevada. So do you go to Las Vegas, Nevada, or do you go to Las Vegas, Nevada?
Las Vegas, Nevada.
Okay. Well, I had to begin with that because, for me, I have always called the city of Missouri Nevada, but I call it Las Vegas, Nevada.
Yeah.
Now we know why the English language is so confusing to people who come over here.
It's true.
So is it Missouri or Missouri?
I've always done Missouri. I know some people say Missouri. I've heard Missouri. I've always said Missouri. So.
Well, the way the weather has been lately with the wind,
Yeah.
it's been misery for quite a while. I'm even having to begin to use hairspray. So
how's that working out for you?
it's working pretty good, and I just get some cheap brands, so it's working pretty good. So let's begin by talking about growing up in Nevada, Missouri. What was it like being raised in that community?
Well, and it's kind of funny because, Nevada is the main town that we were part of, but I actually, and not people know this because it's such a smaller town, I actually went to school in Walker, which is a really tiny school. So we had two schools join. It was Shell City and Walker that joined together. So I ended up, going to, it's Northeast Vernon County in Walker. So it was a very tiny school. I graduated with 14 kids, 7 girls, 7 boys. Our school was like maybe, it was 7th through 12th grade. I think it was like maybe 200 people, probably a little bit more as we got older. But Nevada was bigger, but that's where we, being in a small country town, I mean, we didn't have anything. Like really, there's not a whole lot there. So we would go to Nevada and hang out and kind of go. That's where, if we had to go to town, as we say, that's where Walmart was. That's where the stores were. So we went, it was about 20, I think from us living out in the country, I think it was probably about 20, 25 minutes into town. So, but
okay.
It was
good. And so technically you grew up in Walker.
Yeah, we lived, it's funny, where our house was right on the line. We had a Nevada address, but we had a Walker phone number. Those country towns, they kind of zigzag. Yeah. So it was kind of funny that we were just kind of smack dab right there. So if we went this way, we were towards Walker, but if we went this way, we were in Nevada. So.
Well, and I was happy when you said that you would go into town to go to Walmart and not Walmarts.
Yeah, no, I do that sometimes as a joke, but no, I say Walmart.
Yeah, I've never really understood that either, but there was a generation that they like to refer to it as Walmarts in the plural. So, it's funny how we had these little things like that. So what kind of things did you participate in during your high school years at Walker High School?
I did a lot of academic stuff. I think we didn't have a lot of sports, but my main one was basketball. So I played that freshman through senior year. So with it being a small school, I played varsity my freshman and sophomore year. So I played it all through high school. So I think my freshman year we had 6 girls. That was our whole team, which you have to have 5 on a team. So when a friend of mine ended up dislocating her shoulder, she couldn't play. So we had 5 on our team. But I tell you what, that coach made us run like all practice. That's all we did. So our strategy was to run the team down, wear them out, and then we would, kick their butt, by wearing them out. So
So
it was.
did you ever find yourself in a situation where you fouled out and you only had 4 people playing?
We did. And sometimes, depending on the school, they would pull a girl kind of to the side. Like they can't pull the girl out, but they would kind of stand on the sideline and kind of let us be 4-on-4. But, small towns, we kind of stick together. We kind of know. So, but I think we only had that happen a couple times. But yeah, it worked out pretty well.
So what position did you play?
I mostly played post because I was so tall.
Okay.
So yeah, I didn't get to
So
be really cool and do like point or really anything. Sometimes I would stand up top. I think my senior year, maybe senior junior year, I was more up top. But they always wanted me in the back by the goal because I was so tall. So
were you a scorer?
I was really good at layups and
Okay.
like doing just grabbing it and throwing it. But other than that, no, I did more of my layups, grabbing it and just running it because I was so tall and wanted to be like Kobe.
Oh
That
yeah,
whole thing.
absolutely. Speaking of Kobe, do you consider Kobe to be like the greatest basketball player ever, or where do you rank?
I still will say I was a big Lakers fan for a long time when Kobe and Shaq played together. I think they were great brother bromance type situation. But I think Michael Jordan I think, all around besides scoring, just his personality, just who he is as a person, I think he would win hands down. He's the GOAT. He's just the best. So,
Yeah.
but Kobe was pretty up there. So he did really good as well.
I would agree with that, and I think it's a generational thing. I know
Yeah.
the generation today, they really don't consider Michael Jordan to be the greatest of all time. But those of us who grew up in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, we really think that Michael Jordan's the greatest. And honestly, I would have to put Kobe up there probably at second. I'm not sure where I would put LeBron. Not the biggest,
I'm not a big fan. Not gonna
biggest
lie.
fan of LeBron, but he's done a lot, but I still think all things equal, I think Michael Jordan is the greatest of all time. So, who was the biggest rival then for Walker High School in sports?
Oh gosh. I think we there was one school that we fought a lot with, which was Hume, and then Bernard, which that's another school name that was Bernard, or they would say Brona. So, but it was Bernard, and so I think those were the main two. I feel like there was a third one, but I for the life of me, Sheldon, Hume, and Bernard were our top 3 that we were all real tiny and it was one of those, I'm sure the bigger schools, you always have those schools that you just keep playing. Like because we were so small and only had so many teams that we would just keep, like we'd play them like twice throughout the season. So one at our place and one at their place. So yeah, those were the big ones for us.
So, do you have siblings?
I do. I have an older sister. She lives in Wyoming. We're 12 years apart. She's going to hate me for saying that out loud, saying it.
Well,
Jamie.
we haven't established your age, so she's safe.
Okay, fair enough. Well, yeah. So she's older, and then I've got 3 younger siblings, and it's kind of a unique situation, but they're all over. One of the sisters live in Switzerland. Another one lives in Oklahoma doing her vet, like she's wanting to do veterinarian, vet tech, all that stuff. And then my little brother, I think he's doing hospitality in Kansas City. So we're kind of all over the place, but it's kind of cool. But I
Yeah.
miss them and wish that we could hang out more, but such is life. So
Yeah. So, have you ever got to go over to Switzerland?
no, I thought about it, but I tell you what, I do not like to fly. You would have to probably sedate me to fly that. I remember I asked her how like long the total flight was, and I can't remember, but it was too much for me because I think she had, you know, obviously had a layover in different parts and stuff, and I was like, nope, that's just still too much for me. I'm okay, but it's very, very, very pretty over there. But I don't know. I don't know if I'll ever do that. Hawaii was like probably about as far because I know it's like an 8 hour flight. I have family in California, and we're like just going from like LAX to Hawaii. That's enough. That's about 8 hours. I think I could do that, but that's it. Nothing more than that.
Yeah, I've never been to Hawaii, so I've never experienced, a long flight like that. I'm not sure how well I would do either. So you don't have any like hidden Swiss bank account or anything like that?
No,
Okay. Well, inquiring minds want to know.
I don't know if I
Well,
want to say that out loud though. Do I? If I
no,
do,
that's true. You would not, because you would have a lot of fans.
yeah, right.
Yeah, that's for sure. So your siblings were you a lot alike, or are you much different?
Um, my older sister and you know, we're super close now. Obviously, being younger, I annoyed her, typical. But we are alike a lot to where like we like a lot of the same stuff. Sometimes we'll joke about how we'll pick the same stuff. Like if we did the game where you go pick something that they like, something that they drink, you know, that type of thing, we would probably pick the same stuff. We can, you know, do each other's sentences. Um, I'm a lot like my mom. Our mom. She's a lot like her dad, and so I'm more of the people pleaser. I want everybody to like me, and that is impossible. And she's like, it's fine, don't worry about it, just go on with your life. And I'm like, no. Younger ones, I think um, we are all very unique in our own little ways. Like I think the younger two are closer because they lived together a whole lot. Like they lived together all their life. We did not. Andrew's the baby. You know, we have baby Drew. So, but no, I mean, I think Megan and I are always more the tomboy-ish, but between us four, we're just all very unique and different people, and it's kind of cool.
Yeah, as God intends.
Mm-hmm.
So, what was the next step after graduating from Walker High School?
Um, I ended up, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. So I ended up, so Crowder College their main location is in Neosho, but they have a side campus in Nevada. And so I did that, I think, for the first year. I stayed home, got my like general studies out of the way because you need those no matter what you do. So I was like, well, while I decide, I can get those out of the way and do that. So I did that for about a year and a half, and then so I graduated well, here's my age. So I graduated in 2006, and then I ended up. So I guess it would have been a year because I moved here to go to OTC August of 2007. So and then I started doing. I have a degree in computer science. I did web design for a long time. I enjoyed it. I still enjoy it if I do it. I don't do it full time like I was. It's very hard to please people in that aspect because what you're taught to do and what your knowledge knows and what they want is so different, and it's hard to, you know, handle that. So I stopped doing that, but I did that and graduated and did it for a while, and I still do it from time to time to help friends and stuff. But God had a change of plans, and I ended up going more. I did sales for a little bit, restaurant industry for a little bit. I kind of liked that. Then again, another change in our life, and now I'm in the medical field. And I never had a medical background. I always thought about being a nurse. My mom told me no, but what little I know is I think it's very fascinating. I like the medical side, but I also like the natural side too. So it's kind of, you know, to have both, it's good. But I like it. It's not where I thought I would be, but you know, we're here and I'm helping people, and that's kind of my main goal. So
Absolutely. And that's life. The Lord has his plans for us, and sometimes, the road takes some twists and turns that we weren't expecting, and that
yeah,
that happened in your life, and it's
yeah,
happened, I'm
a
sure, in a
lot.
lot of people's lives that are listening. Now, we have to apologize to your sister now, because everything was fine until you
I said it.
told
I
them.
know.
So now everybody can do the math. So
That's okay.
we're so sorry if you're listening in Switzerland, and we hope you are.
Well, she's the one. That's the one in Wyoming, actually. So she's a little bit closer. So that's even.
Oh, okay. She lives in Wyoming. Well, we hope you're listening in Wyoming, and that would be great to have somebody listening in Wyoming.
Yeah.
So 2 years after graduation, after your high school graduation, you experienced the loss of someone that you describe in the prologue of your book as your hero,
Mhm.
rock, and best friend, your mother.
Mhm.
Talk to us, if you would, about that moment. Was it totally unexpected or something that you knew was coming?
It was totally unexpected. You know, we had thought she was getting sick. We did blood work with the doctor, and all was well. So it was out of the blue. Dad kind of noticed some things. I obviously wasn't home because I was here in Springfield, and I did the whole. I was at work. I got a phone call from Dad, ignored it. Got a phone call from my sister, ignored it, and was like, something just doesn't feel right. And so I called my sister, and she's like, "You need to come home." And I was like, "Well, I can't leave work." And then it's just one of those things that I was like, I gotta go. And so I ended up, I drove back to my apartment, got changed, and then I booked it to Joplin, and she had already passed. They had life flighted her from Nevada, where we think that she just ended up having a stroke. And she hated heights, hated helicopters, airplanes. So I'm sure that probably did not help the situation. But by the time I had gotten to Joplin, she had already passed. So I think that's the hard part, is that I didn't really get to say goodbye. But at the same token, I don't know. It's hard to explain, because I've been in scenarios where you watch somebody pass away and you kind of get to have your moment, but at the same, and then I've been this with mom, so I don't know if one is ever really easier. It just depends on the person, what's more helpful for them, I guess. But I just hope that my sister and my dad were there. I think my sister may let. I don't know if my sister actually got to talk to her or not, but the fact that at least she wasn't alone is all I really care about. So
Absolutely. So, totally unexpected. How old was your mother?
she was, gosh, I think she was like 50, 51, something like that. So she was fairly young. I mean,
Yeah, I would say she was young. I'm turning 50 this month, so I
yeah.
like that. Thank you very much. She was young for sure. And so the loss came suddenly.
Mhm.
What kind of support system did you have in the days following that sudden loss in your life?
Well, and I think that's the hardest part, and why I was only 20 years old. It happened right before my 21st birthday. And to be quite honest, mom had passed away, and then I was in the middle of, at the time, I was planning my wedding. I was planning my second. I graduated twice for different degrees, and so I was graduating, and so it kind of just all. It was a lot. It was a lot to process. So, I mean, I had friends. I had our church. I had my people around me, but it's hard if you don't have somebody going it through. Like if they've never gone through it, it's hard. I mean, you can support somebody as much as you can, but until you experience that, it's hard to know how to feel. So, and that's originally why, with the web design degree, I was going to create a website before Facebook group, y'all, before we had all this stuff, when Facebook was just really a thing. I wanted to create a website that was like a chat that people, like a safe place that people could go and tell their feelings and say, hey, I'm not feeling okay today. Who can I talk to, type of situation, before that all really happened. So, but God took me in a completely different direction. So a little bit, I mean, but not, and I was 20, I was in denial for so long that I'm
Sure.
like, I need help, so, um, so it was good. I had what I needed at the time, but it wasn't until I finally did grief counseling. I think that was the biggest step, that I think if anybody can, to do some sort of counseling, whether you're like, well, I'm just not okay with it. I think it was a jump start for a lot of things. So I had that, and I had a bunch of ladies that ended up helping me later down in life, even with the book, that miraculously was a stepping point. So it all happens for a reason.
Yeah, there's so much value in counseling for so many areas of our life, but certainly when you experience, loss and just going through that grief counseling, and obviously, as you well know, denial is part of that grief cycle. And so you go through that, you're 20 years old, then almost 10 years later, you
Mm-hmm.
experience a second great loss when your dad died. So
Mm-hmm.
again, did you know your dad was going to die, or was it sudden, like
And
like your
also,
your mother?
again, I was at work, so my older sister and I, we joke. I'm like, you're not allowed to call me ever. If I'm at work, you're not allowed to call me. You can text me, but anytime she calls, I'm, mid panic. So no, this was unexpected. We had went down there the weekend before to hang out. He got to hang out with my son, and then it was one of those things. He was cleaning out the backyard, getting ready for 4th of July, and we think that he ended up having a heat stroke. We think he went to the doctor like the day before, I think, or sometime that week, and was like, I have what I feel is heartburn. Well, what we know now with a lot of these strokes is that it comes out as like, I have indigestion, I have heartburn. And so he ended up working up a sweat and came in the house and just, he's a 6'4" biker dude, long, well, he didn't have long hair at the time, and he did when he was a kid, but like this really big dude. His friend just said he fell right on the floor. Like, she's like, there was nothing I could do for him. I'm so sorry. I'm like, he is 6'4". Like, I don't expect you to catch him. Like, I get it. It's hard. So I think that one was a lot harder because, 10 years, 30 years old, 20 years old, different parts of life. But I think the hardest part with that is that I knew my world was going to completely change. Like, couldn't go home. My home was gone. Like, we had to go through all of because Dad had kept a lot of mom stuff. So we were reliving mom stuff. So we went through mom stuff. We went through our childhood things. We went through Dad's things. And so trying to clean all that out, and it was in the middle of summer. So it was 100+ degrees outside. So we were just trying to rush through it, which was kind of a blessing in disguise. But I think each of them were hard in different ways. With Mom, I didn't really know the Lord. I was angry for so long. Like, the first 3 years, I think, were a blur. And then at least with Dad, I changed my thoughts and my vision for it, and I was a lot closer with God, and it helped a lot. I was able to help people more and ask God, instead of, as humans, we ask, why me, which is normal. Like, he expects that. It's not uncommon. But with my mom, I was always, why me, why me? And I didn't ask, anything different. I didn't see it differently because I didn't know. And then with Dad, I was more focused on how. Like, how is this going to change me? How are you going to use me? And I tell you what, if you ever ask him, which I'm sure with you being a pastor, if you ask, how are you going to use this? How are you going to use me? He's going to show you.
Absolutely.
And so I ended up where we were at. I ended up helping a random girlfriend that had come back into my life that we had worked together for years. I helped her because somebody passed in her life. And then a friend of the church we were going to, she lost her husband and her brother, her father and her brother. And then my best childhood friend that I grew up for years, she lost her dad. So that was like another, I'm like, well, this is kind of like my dad too. So I was just able to be there for these people. And it was hard, but I felt better that I was being able to use that and help other people.
Absolutely. Well, that's, God, He's the God of all comfort. Scripture tells us He comforts us in all our troubles so that we can comfort those who are also experiencing, some of the things that we've been through. And that's what He did in your life through you at that season of your life. And so by the age of 30, you've been on a journey that you weren't fully prepared for, a journey of loss and grief that you survived. And at some point, you decide that you're going to write a book to share your story and what you learned to help others when they find themselves on a similar journey. So how did the idea of the book come about?
Well, it actually, when I was doing the website stuff, I was sitting there looking on my laptop of ideas of what I could do. And I just, out of nowhere, just was like, you're going to write a book. And I was like, I'm 20 years old. Who writes a book at 20? And I felt like God was just, and here I wasn't real in my walk of faith, but something just kept telling me, and I just was like, okay, I guess we're going to do this. And I started, so it would have been 13 years that I had basically worked on and off on this book. I had so many different visions. I had so many different ideas of what would be easiest for people. I had started one manuscript, and the guy's like, you need more emotion into it. I'm like, well, that's going to really hurt people. And he's like, they need to connect with you and feel you, excuse me. And I was like, okay. So I ended up kind of on and off doing it. And then in 2021, I had hit rock bottom, and I was done with everything. I didn't want to do anything. Just so much had happened, and I was like, okay, this is where I'm not going to do anything else. I'm done. And so one day I was crying on the floor, and God picked me up and said, "You're going to finish this book." And I didn't know how. And this lady that I had went to grief counseling with like years ago randomly messaged me and said, "Hey, you need to talk to this publishing group." And I was like, "We haven't talked in 10 years." Like, okay. And so I talked to the publishing group, and I had an interview with them and told her about the idea. And she's like, "I think it's phenomenal." She's like, "I think it'll be a great hit. You can help others." And so within 6 months, I sent them everything. We had 3 copies. It was me, the publisher, and the editor team, all review it. They designed they designed all of it for me, front to back. They edited it. I just gave them, I read through it and did the thumbs up. And within 6 months, I had it. And it was like, I think I got it close to my birthday. I think when I finally, maybe, I can't really remember, or maybe it was the June, I can't remember, but it kind of just how everybody kind of came into the story and was able to happen and put it together. And then here we are. I haven't done a lot with it like I had originally planned, but life happens, and
Yeah.
just got to take baby steps.
So let's talk about the title, Grieving Light.
Mm-hmm.
What's the message of the title?
Well, I had went back and forth. I was thinking when I originally started, I was thinking of, because there's 5 to 7 stages of grief. I think they've added some. I was wanting to think of like seasons of life, like seasons of grief, and that's where I was going. But every time you look up seasons, the Four Seasons pops up. So I was like, well, I don't want to do that.
No.
So I was like, okay, I always loved, talking about the light and just darkness and light. And so the light, the grieving light, like finding your light in darkness, and helping or having Jesus lead the way. He says it. I mean, how many times does he say it in the Bible that he is the light? And so it just kind of fell into my lap one day, and I was like, okay, this is what we're doing. And I looked up for the website, I looked up the names and everything, and all kind of came together. And so that's where I stuck.
Well, I love the title. I love that message. And you're right. Jesus, he is the light, and he wants to lead us through that dark season of our life when we've experienced, loss through death. And so I wanted to pick out just a couple of the chapters of the book. Chapter 7 is called Helping and Understanding. Can you give us just a brief synopsis of that chapter? I know that's probably hard to do, but just a brief synopsis.
I think I really wanted, the first part of the book, I didn't want the book to be just about me. I wanted people to connect with me in the story, and then try to kind of go more of the like the logical side of grief, like explaining that, because a lot of people, in society, when you hear somebody's grieving, what does your brain automatically go to? Oh, they lost a loved one. But grieving is so much more than that. And I think
Right.
we underestimate it can be anything, anything that brings great, sorrow, pain, or anything like that. So I wanted to kind of add that and let people know that, here's what I've learned. Here's what I've gotten from my classes. Here's what I've used to help me to understand grief. Here's what I use to help me not just understand it, but use it and, go through it, logically, not just spiritually. So that was kind of my main goal. I wanted it to be more of a learning experience too, to kind of give a little more explanation.
And obviously, you got a chapter called Grief to Glory.
Mm-hmm.
So you went from grief to glory. So what does that mean for you, the glory aspect?
That one, it's funny because the points that I had put in there was really something that God laid on my heart one night, late at night. I was laying in bed, and all these points just kind of came to my head. And that, he is the light in the darkness. We're going to go through stuff, and he explains that our Christian walk is going to be struggle, but we have to give the glory to him. And then in the end, he wins, we win. I mean, that's the whole point. But without him, and without your people, and without, I don't know, it's so hard to explain, because it's like I hate that we have to go through it. I hate that anybody has to go through any of this, but I think, it changes us. It helps us grow. It helps us learn. It helps us become who we are. And I think that glory is ultimately we win. And whether it be, we have to feel it to heal it. Like it's not, you have to go through this and you have to feel all these things so you can win in the end. And it's this, it's never going to go away, the grief. I don't want people to think that like, I don't, this is the end. Like I'm better now. Like I was thinking of my dad the other day, like it'll come in waves and that's what it does. But in the end, I mean, I have to be here for my son. I have to process that. I have to give glory to God that even though I went through what I went through, I've been able to help so many people. I've had people reach out from states away that are like, man, I randomly got your book from a friend, or I saw it online and I read it and it changed my life. And it's like, that's the goal. I want them to find their glory. And I would love for that glory to be with Jesus. And if it's not, it's hard for us as Christians, but as long as they find a good end and not a bad end that leads. I went down the drinking road after mom passed away. I went down a very scary road, but we see a lot of people, that's where it ends, and that's the glory with Jesus, and glory just in the end. I want these people to find that in the end.
Well, I love that as a person of faith myself. And, our hope is that people will come to Jesus Christ, and that he'll use you and he'll use this book, if they're not already there, to bring them to that place. So kind of getting close to time running out on us, but where's the best place for people to find the book Grieving Light? Because I really want people to go and get this book, and if not for themselves, to share it with those that need it right now.
Yeah, so right now the only place I have it on is Amazon. It's just a paperback. It looks like it's got the butterfly, and it'll say, and you can search for my name too, and it should pop up. Amazon right now, I only have the paperback. My publisher had asked if I wanted to do an audiobook because of it being a personal situation, but we all don't love hearing ourselves. So I've been on the fence on that one, but it's not super big. I think like total from start to finish is like 60 pages, 70 pages max, but that's got all the different stuff in it. So it's not super big.
And that's doable. And, once you go back and listen to this podcast and hear yourself talking, you might change your mind. You may want to do an audiobook.
Maybe we'll see.
So if someone wanted to follow you or connect with you, how would they go about doing that?
Well, I have a Facebook. I try to keep it up regularly. And then I have Instagram. I think that I have a website right now, just the Grieving Light, like all of it's the same across the board. That's all I really have right now. I don't know what God has planned for this. It's kind of just been something it was never supposed to be a full-time thing. It was just I want to help people type of situation. So I don't know if it's just going to be here and there type of situation, or if it's going to turn into something. So I'm kind of just waiting, just kind of taking baby steps and seeing what happens. But yeah.
Well, when you present your plans to the Lord, he'll make your path straight, and he'll show you that for sure. So I always like to close out my podcast by throwing some fastballs. So these are questions with quick answers.
Okay.
So first thing, Cardinals or Royals?
What if I say neither?
You can say that. That's fine. That's fine.
If I had to pick, I would say Cardinals.
Okay. Well, boo. All right.
Right.
Andy's frozen custard or pineapple whip?
Andy's.
I'm with you on that. Favorite author?
Oh gosh. Oh, I can't think of her name. That's horrible. That is horrible. I have one of the books here somewhere. I can't. Is it Lya? No. I don't know. I've read a couple of Chris Kane's books, so I like hers too. But we'll go with her because I read like of her books.
That's good. So if you had a time machine, would you go to the past or future?
That's tough. I would probably say the past and be able to maybe see my parents again.
Yeah, I love that answer, and I kind of thought you might go there, and I love that. I could definitely see that as well. Favorite kind of cereal?
Usually Fruity Pebbles is my go-to if I splurge, but it's torn between Fruity Pebbles and Golden Grams.
Okay. They're distinctly different. So that's interesting. Your first job.
I was working in a movie theater in Nevada, Century Six Cinema. Yeah,
Okay. That would be a fun first job.
it was.
Okay. Now this is the final fastball I'm going to throw at you. If you had a warning label, what would it be?
I have a very big heart and love way too hard. I learned that I've recently learned that pretty hardcore right now. So I tend to wear my heart on my sleeve, and I love really, really, really big. So I tend to get hurt a lot, but it's part of it.
Well, that's a good quality, but it's hard when you experience that kind of hurt, and it kind of goes back to what you talked about earlier. We can experience grief in a lot of different forms, and sometimes it's just the loss of a relationship that we have, and you grieve that as well. So, thank you for sharing that. Very quickly, because I have to ask this: any other books on the horizon?
I had a friend ask me that the other day. I don't know. It's up to God. My publisher asks me that a lot. I actually had thought about doing I love to color, like when I'm stressed out and stuff. So I thought about doing like a grief journal coloring book situation. I don't know what that would look like. I had some ideas, but I don't know. I love God. I do. I love him with all my heart, but I don't really the lessons are hard. I don't really want to write another book if I don't have to. If it's for good stuff, fine. But I really don't want any more tragic type of situations that I have to. But we'll
Well,
see.
I love the idea of a coloring book, and I love to color outside the lines, so that would be really good. Well, I want to thank you, Randy. Thank you so very much for being my guest today on Catching Conversation. If it helps one person, then
Right.
it was worth our time together. And I just look forward to seeing how the Lord continues to use you and your book to help others. And so, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
I want to thank all of you for your support. Please share this podcast with your friends, especially in Wyoming. Give us a 5-star rating and review. Also, let me cheer you on to personally connect with others, hear their stories, and enjoy for yourself catching conversation.